Day's finally here. I know you're not always given to hyperbole, kind of like your predecessor, but how exciting is it? What's the emotion of the fun?
I was a math major. You're going to explain what hyperbole is. But I would tell you this is a really exciting day for our football program, for our athletic department, for our university. And I think going forward, this is going to be like an anniversary, whether it's a wedding anniversary or something like a birthday. I think this will be a date throughout history that the Rutgers family is really going to remember.
You've been talking about it for, seems like forever now, but what's it like for the day to finally be here?
I think you guys have been talking about it forever.
So we've been asking
we try to
questions
focus on
forever,
day to day as we go, but it feels good. It feels good that it's finally here. I think it's going to be a day we can really enjoy. It's great to have Jim Delaney and his staff coming to our campus and a lot of important dignitaries from some of the other schools in the Big Ten to welcome us in officially. And then when we wake up tomorrow, we got to get down to business of trying to be 1-0 versus Washington State.
I know you always focus on 1-0 one game at a time, but have you noticed, just from talking to the kids, is there definitely, a palpable interest in playing in the Big Ten, new competition, step up in competition? You're playing against Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan, all those schools. Is that something that you've noticed kids have spoken about?
There's no doubt. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. I think when you're in the off season, it's okay to look at the big picture. I think it's okay for our players right now to look at the schedule and see some of the most storied programs in the history of college football and say this is going to be a great opportunity for us to test ourselves against them. As we get closer to training camp and we get back here together in August, we'll really get focused in and we won't have a problem doing that. But I think right now, and a day like today is a big picture day and something we're really excited about.
Does recruiting change at all in terms of the type of player you look at? Rutgers gone after typically faster, quicker, more athletic type of players, particularly on defense. Does it change at all with a style of play that changes in the Big Ten? You won't see the pass-happy offenses like you saw last year.
I think that certainly the offensive styles, from what I understand, will be a little bit different than what we saw last year in that conference. The way we recruit, the type of player that we recruit will not change. We've never sacrificed speed and athleticism for size. We're not going to do that. But I think, in talking to some of the coaches who play a Big Ten schedule or play a lot of teams in this conference, the thing they've stressed is you have to have enough linemen. And going forward, we need to make sure that we're deep enough up front. And I feel pretty good that we are right now on defense. I think on offense, we're not quite there yet. We're closer than we were 6 months ago, but we're not quite there yet, and we need to be deeper on the offensive line.
So it's not different players, but it may be a little bit of a tweak of a numbers game in terms of what positions you go after in recruiting.
Yeah, there's no exact science to it, but I think you're right. When you look at the depth chart and future depth chart, you always want to make sure that you're well stocked up front.
Have you seen July 1st now? I know it's a dead period, but is there a little more buzz now that the date's here in recruiting? Does a switch flip now that it's official?
I think the 2-week dead period is good for college football. I think it's good for the families of the college coaches. I think it's good for the families of the recruits. It's nice to have a 2-week window in the summer where, if you do have any free time, which we have a lot of things going on still, but you don't have to have the obligations of people coming on campus and making trips. So I think it's good. I think any time something is done universally across college football, that could become a positive because it evens the playing field.
Kyle, how does this all affect your recruiting? Are you going to be going elsewhere now into Big Ten territory, so to speak, traditional Big Ten territory, to look for recruits, or are you going to pretty much stick with your normal recruiting?
I think our core recruiting in the state of Rutgers will remain the same, and we've always recruited the best players in the state of Rutgers. I have noticed already, and I think you can see it in last year's recruiting class, the emergence of some players from some non-traditional areas, a tight end from Texas, a tight end from Minnesota, a quarterback from Michigan. And this year, we did send 2 coaches to Ohio. We have 2 coaches on our staff, and Mitch Browning and Ben McDaniels, that have very natural ties to Ohio, and there's a lot of good football players in Ohio. So I think you will see some of that in the non-traditional areas, but I think the lifeblood of college football is recruiting, and recruiting always begins at home.
A lot of people talk about that first Big Ten game, what it's going to be like here, electric atmosphere, Penn State, your closest geographic rival, maybe, exception of Maryland, but there's always kind of been a little Penn State Rutgers thing going on. But what about when you go on the road? You're going to play in front of some of the biggest crowds Rutgers football has ever played in front of. What's that going to be like for your team? It's going to be very different on that.
Well, I think the consistency of it will be different. I don't know that that'll be necessarily different. We've played in some venues with some big crowds, and as recently as 2 years ago at Arkansas. And I think our players have reacted well to it. So, our players have been on the big stage. I don't have any concern about that. I think it'll be more frequent. There's no doubt about that.
And maybe more used to it.
Well, I think over time you get used to it. But I think after you've done it once or twice, I don't think it sneaks up on you after that.
Just to piggyback off that a little bit, Big Ten has trophy games. Is that a concept that you'd like? Maybe Maryland, Penn State, or maybe another natural rival? Would you like to see a trophy game?
Sure, I would welcome it. Yeah, I really would. I think football is at its best when it's regional. I think we've got a natural neighbor to the west and a natural neighbor to the south. And if something like that were to evolve, if we come to some sort of agreement, I would be very open to it. I think it'd be great.
Is that something that has to come naturally, though, or is something forced?
I think rivalries in general happen over time. They happen because of geographic boundaries, and they happen because of really high-level football being played on both sides. So I think ultimately the rivalries are determined by those things.
Who would have been your closest to in your mind? Might be different from fans. Who would have been your closest to before that? Maybe UConn, Louisville?
Oh, I don't know. No one ever described those games to me as rivalry games. I think you'd probably have to ask our fan base. We have not had a trophy game per se here since I've been here. So the fans probably have a better answer for you for that than I would.
Gonna do two more, guys. Two more.
You talked a little bit about recruiting. How much tougher is it going to be recruiting against some of those Big Ten schools?
I don't think it's any different. I think the schools in the Big Ten have recruited New Jersey for a long time, and I think we've battled those schools for a long time in recruiting. And ultimately, recruiting success is judged by getting the right players in your program, so that they develop in your program.
What's your first Big Ten memory?
My first Big Ten memory would be the first game I ever coached here. It was at Illinois in 2005, and it was certainly an exciting game and one we would like to have come out on top of and didn't. There were a lot of great plays on both sides of it, but to coach your first game at this level in that stadium, it was a great experience.
Any football fan in you? Any Rose Bowls and Michigan Ohio State games that you growing up watching? Anything to say that?
I was a college football fan. I can't tell you that there's one memory of my childhood about that. But coaching your first game of major college football out in Illinois was certainly exciting.
Was it the first Leonard
Last
Leap?
one, guys.
It was. Well, I don't know if it was the first Leonard Leap, but there was a Leonard Leap in that game.
Yeah.
It was actually outside zone to the left. It was 11 personnel, 2x2, and we cracked the safety, and Leonard jumped over the corner and went 80 yards for a touchdown. In case you forgot.
Sounds like an O-line coach right there.